The wind cut sharp that afternoon as Caleb rolled his pickup into the gravel lot outside Josie's Roadhouse, an aging diner clinging to life just off Highway 50. It was the kind of place where the clock seemed stuck, and strangers weren't always welcome. The neon "open" sign blinked uncertainly in the dusty window, its flicker more habit than invitation. Nearby, a lone gas station stood forgotten, its pumps rusted and silent. Caleb killed the engine, gave the diner a glance, then grabbed his wallet and hat from the dash. Inside, the place looked every bit as tired as he'd imagined: worn linoleum floors, booths with cracked vinyl, a jukebox that hadn't played a song in years. The stale smell of burnt coffee and fryer grease hung thick in the air, stubborn and familiar. A waitress with tired eyes wiped down an already clean counter, murmuring quietly to the cook behind her. The bell above the door clanged hard as Caleb stepped in, loud enough to turn heads. No greetings met him, only stares, guarded and assessing. In the corner, a cluster of bikers lounged in leather and denim, their sunglasses still on despite the dim light. Their laughter faded the moment Caleb entered, but he gave no reaction. Adjusting his hat, he kept his posture loose as he made his way to a booth near the window, always better to keep the exits in sight. Old habits. The waitress approached, tapping her pencil against a notepad, her eyes flicking nervously toward the bikers. "What'll it be?" she asked, voice flat. "Burger and fries," Caleb replied evenly. "Coffee. Black." She scribbled without meeting his gaze, glancing again at the corner table where the bikers watched him like wolves spotting a stray. Caleb didn't bite. He settled back, running his thumb along the rim of the mug as if the room around him didn't matter, but it did. And the atmosphere was shifting. One biker, a burly man with a weathered beard and tattooed knuckles, leaned back in his chair, his voice pitched just loud enough to carry. "Well, would you look at that? We got ourselves a drifter." A ripple of laughter followed, low and rough. Caleb stayed silent. Beardman wasn't finished. "Hey, pal. You deaf or just rude?" The waitress brought over his coffee, her hand trembling as she set it down. Caleb gave her a faint, reassuring nod. "Thanks," he said quietly. She offered a tight smile and retreated fast. The room pressed in. The biker's stares felt heavier now, the silence between them sharpening into expectation. "Maybe he's shy," Beardman sneered. "Or maybe he's lost. Ain't much out here for his kind." That landed sharper. The laughter rose, meaner this time, filling the small diner. Caleb lifted his coffee slowly, calm as ever, and sipped. A chair scraped loudly. Beardman, Mason, as the others called him, stood, boots thudding with each step as he approached Caleb's booth. The others leaned back, ready for a show. The waitress froze by the counter, her hand inching toward the phone. Mason loomed beside the table, the smell of leather and stale tobacco trailing him. "Hey," he barked. "I'm talking to you." Caleb placed his cup down gently, his movements deliberate. "Can I help you?" His voice was quiet, steady, polite, even. But something in the tone made Mason hesitate. "You're in the wrong place, stranger," Mason growled, recovering fast. "Don't you know how things work around here?" The others chuckled. "Show him, Mason," one called. "Teach him some respect." Caleb exhaled softly. "I'm just here for lunch." The calmness only fueled Mason's frustration. He slammed his fist on the table, rattling the condiments. "I said, you're not welcome." Caleb's gaze lifted, locking onto Mason's. There was no heat in his eyes, no fear, just a steady, unsettling stillness. "Step back," Caleb said evenly. "No threat. Just a fact," Mason sneered, hiding the flicker of unease creeping into his chest. "Or what?" The diner went quiet. The cook stopped mid-flip at the grill. Mason's lips curled into a grin as he reached for Caleb's collar. Caleb's hand moved first. Fast, precise. He caught Mason's wrist in midair, his grip ironclad. "Don't," Caleb murmured, his voice soft but sharp enough to cut. Mason froze. His bravado faltered. Behind him, his buddies stirred, urging him on. Mason yanked his arm free and stumbled back a step. "Think you're tough?" he spat, flexing his wrist. "We'll see." He turned to his crew. "Get up." Chairs scraped across linoleum as 5 bikers rose, cracking knuckles, rolling shoulders. Caleb remained seated, unmoved. The waitress's hand hovered over the phone. "Don't," she whispered, but Mason shot her a glare. "Leave it," he barked. Mason faced Caleb again, swaggering. "Two choices, pal. Walk out, or we drag you out." Caleb didn't flinch. He set his cup down, brushing a crumb from the table. "I'm staying." Mason grinned wide. "Then it's your funeral." The bikers closed in, surrounding the booth. They thought they had him boxed in. They didn't understand yet. The diner felt smaller, the tension coiled tight as wire. Mason cracked his knuckles again. "Last chance. Leave, or we end this." Caleb stared back, steady as stone. "You just don't get it," Mason snarled, and lunged. To everyone watching, the next moment happened in a blur. To Caleb, it unfolded with clarity. He slid smoothly from the booth as Mason swung. Caleb caught Mason's wrist, turned, and twisted, using the biker's own momentum to slam him chest first onto the table. One down, the others paused, shocked. Caleb released Mason, letting him crumple to the floor. "You really don't want this," Caleb warned, voice low but firm, "but pride's a stubborn thing." A lanky biker charged, yelling. Caleb sidestepped, planted an elbow into his gut, and used the man's forward motion to send him crashing into a chair. 2 down. 3 more circled, cautious now. The biggest lunged to grab Caleb's arm. Caleb pivoted, locked the man's elbow, and swept his legs out clean. He pressed a knee into his back. "Stay down," he ordered. 3 down. Another biker swung a chair. Caleb ducked, grabbed the chair mid-swing, wrenched it free, and shoved the man backward into a booth. 4 down. The last biker froze, eyes darting between his fallen friends and Caleb. Caleb tilted his head, inviting, daring. The man bolted for the door, the bell jangling wildly as he disappeared into the parking lot. 5 down. The diner fell into deep silence. Caleb adjusted his hat, surveying the mess. The bikers groaned quietly where they lay. Mason lifted his bruised face from the table, disbelief mingling with pain. Who the hell are you?" he croaked. Caleb met his gaze, expression unreadable. "Just a guy having lunch," he replied softly. Mason's lips curled bitterly. "You ain't just some guy." Caleb's gaze swept the room, catching the waitress's wide-eyed stare, the cook's slack jaw behind the counter window. "You don't want to know," Caleb murmured, his voice fading quiet as the wind outside. The lanky biker coughed weakly from the floor. You military or something?" Caleb just shook his head and took another sip of his coffee. Caleb didn't say a word. He slid back into his booth, where his burger sat untouched and his coffee had cooled. He picked up a fry, took a casual bite, and chewed slowly, as if nothing at all had happened in the last 5 minutes. The waitress crept forward, still shaken, her voice barely steady. "Sir, are you all right?" Caleb lifted his gaze and offered a gentle smile. "I'm fine, ma'am." She stared, surprised by his calm, by the quiet politeness of a man who'd just dismantled 5 men like it was routine. Her eyes flicked between the groaning bikers and Caleb. I'll get you a fresh burger." "No need," Caleb said, his voice even. "This one's just fine." At a booth near the back, an old man with sun-leathered skin and calloused hands murmured, "Ain't never seen nothin' like that in my life." The diner buzzed with low whispers, but Caleb paid them no mind. He knew what they were thinking. When a quiet man makes noise, folks don't forget. He pulled a few bills from his wallet, slid them under his plate, and rose. His boots thudded softly as he made his way to the door. Behind him, the waitress called out, "Wait, who are you?" Caleb paused with his hand on the doorframe. He glanced back at her, his expression calm, steady. "Just a guy finishing his lunch," he said, and with a soft chime of the doorbell, he stepped outside. The gravel crunched beneath his boots as he walked to his truck. Near the gas pumps, the last biker, the one who'd bolted, stood silently by his bike, watching, wide-eyed. He didn't speak. He didn't move. He simply stepped aside as Caleb climbed into the cab. The truck's engine rumbled to life, breaking the heavy quiet of the lot. Caleb shifted into gear, gave the roadhouse one last glance in the mirror, and rolled onto the highway, leaving the flickering neon and battered bikes behind. The bruises would fade. The ache would pass. But the memory? That would stick. People would talk. Stories would spread. "I saw it," someone would say later. Guy never raised his voice. Barely moved. Took down 5 of them like they were kids. Didn't even look mad, another would add. Like it wasn't personal. The waitress would share her side too. "I asked him who he was," she'd say, and he just smiled, said he was a guy eating lunch. Mason, the biker who tried to stand tallest, went quiet in the weeks that followed. Whenever someone brought up the roadhouse, he'd cut them off with a bitter scowl. "Forget it," he'd mutter. But he wouldn't forget. None of them would. That day taught them something loud words and fists couldn't. Real strength doesn't brag. It doesn't need a crowd. Sometimes it's the man who stays silent, steady, and controlled who carries the most power. And Caleb? He didn't dwell on it. Didn't need the stories, the whispers, the awe. He'd lived his life knowing respect wasn't earned through intimidation or noise. You earned it by staying calm when others pushed, by standing your ground without losing yourself. Miles slipped away under his tires. The sun hung low, casting gold across the empty highway. Somewhere down the road, he stopped at a small gas station, grabbed a bottle of water, and brought it to the counter. The cashier, a teenager with earbuds dangling around her neck, looked up curiously. "You heading somewhere special?" she asked. Caleb smiled faintly as he laid down some cash. "Just passing through." She tilted her head, sensing something in the quiet way he carried himself. "You a vet or something?" He paused a moment, then shrugged. "Just a guy getting water." With that, he walked back to his truck, started the engine, and eased onto the road again. The girl watched him disappear down the highway, feeling an odd mix of curiosity and quiet respect, and like that, he was gone. Another stretch of road, another town behind him. No need for recognition. No desire for thanks, but for those left in his wake, his calm strength spoke louder than fists ever could. A reminder that real power doesn't shout, it doesn't need to. Some men don't have to prove a thing. They've already fought their battles, and sometimes, the quiet ones are the last people you should ever underestimate.